Now we know what the white-collar recession looks like. We've seen how capital incentives drive it. Now it's time to face the mentality that keeps most people trapped inside of it. If working harder built wealth, the hardest working generation in history would be rich. So why aren't they? This episode is about the great decoupling, when the connection between effort and reward broke. And I'll show you exactly where the line split. Productivity measures how much income the entire economy generates in an hour of work. Pay measures how much of that income actually reaches workers. Let's take a look at this chart from the Economic Policy Institute. You can see two lines, one for productivity, that's the darker blue line, and one for pay, that is the light blue line. For about 25 years after World War II, they rose together almost in lockstep. And that was the post-war boom. Watch what happens around 1979. The lines start to diverge. Productivity keeps climbing, up more than 60% since then. But typical worker pay barely moves. It's largely flat. And if you look at today's numbers, the gap is massive. We're producing more wealth per hour than ever, but most people stopped sharing in that wealth. The economy kept growing, it just stopped sharing. And to be clear, this is not a socialist rant. This is an examination of how inequality is imputed in the system. After World War II, policy made sure growth flowed downward and outward. The minimum wage rose regularly, unions were strong, top tax rates stayed high. Antitrust laws kept corporations from swallowing entire markets. Here's a simple table that I pulled together. Look at the difference between the period from 1949 to 1979 compared to 1979 to 2009. In period one, there were 11 distinct minimum wage hikes. The wage went from 40 cents to $2.90. That's a 625% increase. Compared to period two, 9 hikes rose from $2.90 to $7.25, but only a 150% increase. And not only did the average time in between minimum wage cuts increase, but the time between the last two cuts in that second period was about 10 years. So there were very long gaps in between minimum wage increases, the closer you got to the present day. That slowdown of increases right after the late 70s policy shift meant the floor stopped rising. Workers lost purchasing power, even as productivity kept surging. Add in deregulation, union decline, tax cuts for the top earners, and you get the gap we see today. Plain talk, it's not that people stopped working, it's that the rules stopped rewarding their work. Even when the pie grew, not everyone was allowed a slice. Black workers and women face systemic barriers in nearly every market: housing, labor, finance. Yet during that mid-century boom, post-World War to about 1979, the black-white wage gap actually narrowed some because tight labor markets and high minimum wages lifted everyone a bit. When those protections rolled back, that progress stalled. Discrimination didn't vanish, it repriced itself. We didn't just lose better jobs, we lost the policies that made them fair. Today, the average worker produces more than twice what their grandparents did, but owns less, saves less, and rests less. We call it hustle culture, but it's really the productivity trap, a system that turns effort into output without returning output into security. More work hours now mean less stability than they did 50 years ago. And that's not an accident. That's design. For most people today, working harder only works in 3 cases. 1, top specialists, those who directly capture returns on capital and technology. 2, job switchers, who jump company to company to get paid what they're worth. And 3, owners and creators, turn their skills into assets that earn while they sleep. Everyone else, they're playing a game where the goalposts move. Plain talk, hard work is honorable, but leverage is what gets paid. If hard work doesn't pay like it used to, stop selling labor and start building leverage. Here are 3 steps to start your exit from this productivity trap. 1. Learn a monetizable skill, something digital, transferable, and in demand. 2. Own a multiplier. That could be equity in a business, property, or a digital asset. 3. Automate income. Use AI or software to earn back your time for creation, not repetition. It is extremely difficult to control or even influence macro policy, but you can design a personal economy that compounds. That's what surviving this era means. Real talk, the system still rewards productivity. It just pays the owners first. Be one of them. The moral of the money, use your inherent God-given abilities coupled with your experience to build what pays you back. In our next episode, we're going to discuss the rise of the 2 Americas at work and how to choose which side to build on. Until then, be well, and I'll see you on the next episode.